Hey, in this video I'm going to show you how to upload custom fonts through the X theme or through the Pro theme. So the first thing that you need to do here is go to Theme Options. So you can access this from the dashboard. You can also access it from the top menu on most pages of the site if you were logged in. But go ahead and navigate over to Theme Options, and the place that we're going to go here, and by the way, you can also access this on any page within the Cornerstone editor. So if you're on an individual page, you can also do this, because what we're doing here is we're going to this top left hand corner through the navigation drop down, and this navigation drop down can be found on every page. So I'm just having you go to Theme Options right now, just to kind of, it's the fastest way to get there, but you can access this on any page that you're editing. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go down to Fonts, and we're going to scroll down to, there's a couple different areas here, and I'm going to show you how to do both of these. Typically what you're going to end up using is the Adobe Fonts type kit right here. And what we're going to have to do is we're going to be typing in we're going to be pasting in a project ID tag. So the other way to do it is through uploading a custom font file. Now, unfortunately, Adobe changed some things, which, to my knowledge, unless this is changed again, but to my knowledge, you cannot actually grab the actual font files from Adobe anymore. And I'm over here on the Adobe website. I'll show you how to do this in a second. But there is basically only going to be a way for them to, I think what they're trying to do on Adobe is they're trying to keep people from sharing fonts. And so by doing this, it forces you to actually have an API key to be able to link them with your account. So anyway, this one is pretty straightforward. I'll show you how to do this first. So if you do in fact have the font file, which this would be deleted, by the way, I was messing with this a minute ago. If you do in fact have the font file, you're just going to go to Add Item. You're going to click this little drop down right here, and you're going to go to Import Font Files. And then from here, you'd hit Select Files, and you would upload the actual font file, and it would then be activated within here. And at that point, you would go up into the font section here, and it's the exact same way. So I'll show you this in a second. But basically, this is how you would get the font file into the database of the website. All right. The way that I'm going to show you how to do this, which is how we have to do it for this particular font, most fonts that we're going to be getting through Adobe, we have to use the project ID. So let's go ahead and navigate over to the Adobe fonts. So this is fonts.adobe.com. And go ahead and log in. We'll go ahead and give you the account login if you don't already have one. Go ahead and navigate over to My Adobe Fonts. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and search for the font that we're looking for. All right. So this particular one is called Avia, and we're going to click that. And it's going to pull up all of the different font types for this particular font file. Okay, so what we're going to do is we need to add this to a web project, and that can be found right up here. So we're going to go and add to web project, and we're going to need to create the new project. All right, so we can see here that everything's checked. That's what we need, and we'll go ahead and create a new project, and we're going to type this in. So we're going to do GP Armory. That is the client that we're uploading for. We're going to hit create. And now this just created the project, but we need to get the project ID, which it doesn't actually give us anything right here. So let's go to Edit Project. Okay, so we can see here we're under GP Armory, and there's a project ID right here. That is what we need to snag. So let's go ahead and copy that. We're going to come back to our Theme Pro Options menu, and we're going to go ahead and paste in the project ID right here. All right. Now you do have to hit refresh, otherwise this won't pull up. So go and hit refresh, and now we can see Avia wide. We've got everything in there. All right. But this isn't the last step. The last step is we need to go back up here into the font section and actually add it in. All right. So we can go to Add. We're going to click this drop down right here. Let's go ahead and name it the font that we want. So Avia. Now this is going to be a particular type of the Avia font. So we're going to hit this drop down right here. It's all going to be right here. So we've got Avia wide, expanded. So if you're going to do, Avia wide, you'd want this to be named Avia wide. And then you might want to include both. I like to include all of the different font boldness types, so different font weights. I like to include all those in the checkbox just so they're available to me at all times. But if there is like a very strict, hey, we never want this font to be bold, then you might want to uncheck that and just leave it in regular. Okay, now when you're actually using this on the front end, you will actually have to use the header feature instead of the here, I'm going to go ahead and hit save here, and I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. Kind of hard to explain without showing it. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop over to the home page here. We're going to hop into an actual page, and we're going to edit the page. Let's go to Cornerstone, edit page. So for us to, and let me also open up the theme options menu again. So this is a classic custom headline element, and if you'll notice, if you've ever built on X before, what's happening here is this is actually controlled by the customizer menu up here within the. So if we go to theme options and we come down to the typography section, this is being controlled by this heading section right here. So these classic custom headlines are controlled within this font family. And if you'll notice, if we go try to find the Obvia font here, it's actually not going to be listed in here because that is it's kind of annoying, but that's actually how they, well, I'm just going to show you here. There's no Obvia font listed in here. And then, sometimes there are two different types of menus for this font, for the font menu, but again, we can tell that it's not in here, so we can't use it according to the classic custom headlines. So let me show you an additional way that we can actually use it. But what I'm getting at here is if you wanted to use this on the front end, which I don't particularly love doing it this way, by the way, because we can't control everything through CSS. So what do I mean? Here's the headline. If you're just doing some quick thing on a landing page or something, you can do it this way, but I don't particularly like to do this. All right. So we have the headline over here. Now we need to actually change this particular font type that we're using. Okay. So now if you'll notice here, if you've recently we have to get used to this new. There's a huge change in the theme. So I'm actually looking for the actual text we're using. Okay, here we go. So the font here, this is where we'd have to come and select the Obvia wide. All right, and now we can see here that it just changed on the front end. So that's how we have to control the headline on this particular in this particular way. All right, so we can't use the classic custom headline, which again, I prefer to use the classic custom headline because we can actually control that through CSS. All right, now what do I mean by that? Let's go ahead and hop into this. I know this video is kind of getting a little bit long and maybe overdone, but it is important for me to show you this. All right, I'm gonna hit pause here and pull up a different menu. Okay, so ultimately, what I'm about to show you is highly likely for how the site should be built. Now I know I've already shown you like kind of the easy way to do it. It is good to still have the font file uploaded like the way I just showed you, but when you're building a website that you really want to be able to control through CSS, so make one change within the CSS file and it changes everything on the front end, this is the way that you want to do it. All right, so what we need to do, so I'm on the dashboard here, what we need to do is we need to actually go to the Insert Headers and Footers plugin, which if that's not on the website yet, please go and download this plugin. We need it on every single site that we use, and go ahead and download the plugin. You're going to have all of your scripts and everything there and go inside the header. Okay, so what I've done here is I've gone ahead and uploaded the font file through the header menu. Now, when I go over to Adobe Fonts, where we find that is when we pull up the web project and we've already uploaded that file into that particular project. We're going to scroll down and we're going to embed the project down here. Okay, so this is the font file that we're going to be uploading into the header tag of the HTML, which is our insert headers and footers. So what I did here is I copied. So I copied this, I brought it over here, and I pasted this into the insert headers and footers. Now you'll notice that you do not have to open and close with a script. Okay, some of these do just because they're being pasted in from Google and stuff like that. But for this particular one, you do not need to open and close with a script value. All right, so go ahead and hit save. And now we've now uploaded that into the site. But now we need to call it using CSS. So let's go over to the theme options menu, and the way that we're going to do this is we're going to pull it in through our CSS customizer. All right. So this is just normal CSS here. What we're trying to do now is we need to call the font family, and typically you want to have all of your fonts available for you want to keep it customary. So just as an example here, I got H1 header tag. Now this is an H1, so I should see this change on the front end when I call this. But let's go up, and I can see here that the font family, here's my tag that I need to go ahead and paste in. So we do have alternative tags here for each one, so you might want to name this, but anyway, let's just say we want to use this particular font for our H1 header tags. All right, so here's H1. You're going to need a good sales team. Now you can see that changing on the front end. However, we want to make that uniform across the entire site, so we should be able to do H1, H2. That's not going to let me do both of those at the same time, is it? So let's do H2, H3. Yeah, all right. So let's do, I know there's a way to do that. I'm not super crazy good with CSS, but what I sometimes have to do is just this H2, and then we would need to do H3, which I think this is an H5 down here, so we'll see that change here in a second. H4, and then it should change on this one, H5, there we go. And then you've got your paragraph and body text as well. So if you are needing to change that, then we've got P, and we're going to do font family. Whoops, actually just paste it in the H2 as well. And that looks all sorts of messed up. Let's do that, and you can just see that this just changed the body font as well. All right, so that's how we would change those fonts across the site, and you can tell now that everything's changed. And when I go up, and you'll see this section whenever I delete this, you can definitely see on the front end that this all changes back to what I had it. All right, so that's how I would recommend doing it. Again, if you're building the whole site through the headerman, the actual theme option elements, then you can go that route. Just make sure you are controlling everything with one click of the button. All right, that is what I'm most concerned about. We do not want to be in a situation where you are building the website and using some type of element that we have to go through every single page by page by page and change it if the client ever says, you know what, I want to change my font. We need to have that control from one central place, and that's typically why I like to use the classic custom headlines. However, I do know that the X theme has made a lot of changes over the years. I don't build as much anymore. Perhaps they actually have that feature built in at this point. They did not whenever I was building consistently, which is why I use the classic custom headline. But if you are able to control those header elements, the new header elements with CSS, then be my guest, you can use whatever you'd like. Okay, that should do it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions.